Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely fascinating, highly structured philosophical framework. We're talking about a worldview that literally attempts to map out the entire architecture of society. Why are we positioned where we are? What's our actual duty in life? We're going to break down everything from the size of our internal vessels to the literal physical weight of our karma. It's a wildly interconnected way of looking at human purpose, and I am so excited to guide you through these concepts and make these big, abstract ideas super concrete for you.
Now, here's the big question, right? It's a struggle so many of us face today. You put your head down, you grind away, you do the work, yet there's just this distinct absence of real joy. Well, the source material we're unpacking today hits the nail on the head regarding this exact frustration. It suggests that if you're working tirelessly, but you're just not feeling it, it's not because you're failing at life, not at all. It's actually because you might be misunderstanding the specific phase of life you're in or the specific role you're meant to play. So let's figure out exactly why that is.
All right, to help us navigate this, here is our roadmap for today. First, the size of 3 vessels. Second, energy flow and the 1%. Third, the weight of karma and mass. Fourth, life's first phase in labor. And finally, each person's true purpose.
Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the size of 3 vessels.
So the source material categorizes humanity into specific hierarchical groups based on what it calls the size of your vessel. Now, just to be clear, this is not about human worth. It's strictly about your functional capacity and the societal roles we're all meant to hold. At the base level, we've got the small vessel, which represents laborers. Moving up, there's the medium vessel, representing middle bureaucrats, managers, and intellectuals. And right at the top, the large vessel. These are the spiritual leaders, the ultimate directors of society. The argument here is that to understand your life's trajectory, you've first got to identify your vessel. If your main focus is just earning a paycheck to survive, you fall into the laborer category. If you use your intellect to organize and manage, you're a bureaucrat. And if your ultimate drive is to gather people and pioneer new paths, well, you're holding the large vessel of a leader.
But here's what's really interesting. This system isn't totally rigid. Within your specific vessel size, you aren't just stuck. There are internal grades. Think of them as A, B, and C levels. If you just act like, say, an unthinking subject, blindly doing exactly what you're told without question, you're going to stay at the very bottom grade of your vessel. But the moment you start applying critical thinking, the moment you start asking, wait, isn't there a better way to do this? Boom, you immediately begin to elevate your grade. The philosophy makes it crystal clear. You must seek to truly understand your environment, not just perform tasks like a robot.
Moving on to section 2, energy flow and the 1%. You see, these vessels don't just exist in a vacuum. They are deeply interconnected by the flow of energy. Step 1 starts right at the foundation. Laborers generate small, essential increments of energy through physical toil. Then, in step 2, this energy doesn't just sit there. It moves up to the middle bureaucrats and intellectuals, who gather, organize, and exponentially grow that energy using their minds. Finally, in step 3, all of this consolidated, refined energy is passed up to the spiritual leaders. They are the ones who receive and hold the ultimate power and resources of society. So, it's this continuous, upward transfer of human effort.
And guess where all that energy ultimately ends up? The top 1%. The source notes that when we talk about the wealthy top 1%, or the elites holding all the economic and societal power, we're really talking about these large vessels. But, and this is a huge but, the text is very explicit here. This 1% didn't just conjure that power out of thin air. No way. They hold it because the people below them, the laborers and bureaucrats, worked tirelessly to generate and move that energy upward. It's literally the collective effort concentrated right into their hands.
Which brings us to section 3, weight of karma and mass.
Now, holding all that power comes with a profound catch, an esoteric concept called karmic mass. And the text uses some absolutely striking metaphors to explain this. For a laborer, their karmic burden is light, kind of like soft, powdery ash. A bureaucrat's karma is denser, described as chewy or sticky ash. But for the spiritual leaders, their karma is as hard and heavy as a diamond. Because of this massive difference, their ultimate emotional goals have to differ too. A laborer's goal is to experience personal joy. A bureaucrat's goal is a deeper gladness. But a leader, carrying that diamond-hard karma, they can only find their true purpose by guiding others to joy.
To put this into perspective mathematically, let's look at a person's spiritual makeup. Regardless of whether you are a laborer or a top-tier leader, everyone shares the exact same proportion. 70% pure mass and 30% tainted karma. The percentage is identical across the board for all humans.
However, because a leader's overall vessel is massively larger, their 30% slice is infinitely heavier and denser than a laborer's 30% slice. So the proportion is the same, but the physical density and the crushing weight of the leader's karma just vastly, vastly greater.
Let's dive into Section 4, Life's First Phase and Labor. So how exactly are we supposed to navigate all these burdens? Well, the philosophy outlines a chronological evolution to our lives. Phase 1 is universally characterized as a time of gathering energy, endurance, and, frankly, hardship. Nobody gets a free pass to skip this. The crucial takeaway here is that during this time, you aren't really supposed to be having fun. Laborers must engage in the physical toil needed to build society's base. Bureaucrats are supposed to be out in the field, studying societal data, building relationships, and figuring out how the world ticks. Meanwhile, the leaders are quietly preparing the massive organizational structures and philosophies needed to eventually guide people. Every single class is just grinding away, building that necessary energy for the future.
However, the source points out a massive societal failure that often happens during this first phase, specifically with the intellectuals and bureaucrats. A lot of them completely fail their Phase 1 duties. Instead of analyzing societal structures and organizing data to help humanity progress, they just settle for being mere wage earners. Like, if an intellectual is just doing mindless data entry or writing reports purely to collect a paycheck, the text argues they're mistakenly acting as laborers. They've completely missed the mark on their true developmental duty.
And that leads us to our final section, Section 5, Each Person's True Purpose.
This right here is the crucial aha pivot of the entire framework. It's the realization that the hardships of your past were not failures, they were absolutely necessary preparation. Let's contrast Phase 1 with Phase 2. Phase 1, as we discussed, was all about enduring suffering and gathering energy. But if you lived it correctly, you eventually transition into Phase 2. And this is the sweet spot. This is where you finally find your true purpose. It's where laborers finally experience pure joy, bureaucrats experience profound gladness, and leaders step up to actually guide the masses. If you're feeling miserable right now, the source suggests it's probably because you're trying to find Phase 2 joy while you're still stuck doing Phase 1 work. You literally have to make a conscious leap to that secondary, higher purpose.
But keep in mind, this whole system only works if the top tier actually does its job. The text has this incredibly powerful quote regarding the top 1%. It says that the leader's immense, diamond-hard karma can only be dissolved when they clear the karma of the people below them. Talk about profound interconnectedness, right? Powerful leaders simply cannot achieve their own salvation or shed those massive burdens by being selfish. Their absolute duty in Phase 2 is to take all that accumulated energy and use it to uplift the lower classes and guide them to joy. If they drop the ball and fail to do this, that heavy karma will literally crush them.
So we've covered the structure of vessels, the flow of energy, the crushing weight of karma, and that vital transition from hardship to joy. It's a framework that completely reframes how we look at our own struggles. I want you to take a moment today to really reflect on your own vessel, your current phase, and what your true purpose might be. If all your past hardships were simply the necessary gathering of energy, how are you going to use that energy to step into your joyful Phase 2 today?